Welcome to Enneagram Conversations with Renee Siegel. Maybe you know your Enneagram type, but what's next? Renee uses the Enneagram in conjunction with self-awareness practices to help people better understand the patterns of their type, including patterns of thinking, emotions, and behaviors. This show is highly interactive. Listen or call in to find out how to identify your type, and for those who do know their type, what can you do next to open yourself up to a greater capacity for personal transformation? We all have great strengths, sitting alongside areas that we need to strengthen. It starts with noticing your patterns. You'll begin to discern whether you need to step in and take action, or just sit back and observe. Learn how to dance between observation and participation, and watch yourself transform. Enneagram Conversations starts now.
Welcome to Enneagram Connections. I am so excited today. We are going to be interviewing our Type 9, our Peacemaker and Mediator. I am Renee Siegel, and I am so excited to have as my guest today Wesley Scott. Wesley comes to us from Colorado, and he is in his late 30s, was introduced to the Enneagram about 8 years ago. And he loves people and animals and nature and good pizza. He just finished a bachelor's degree in psych and is looking for employment now in family development and psychology. That is where his focus of interest is. He's a recent graduate from ASU. Welcome, Wesley. I'm so happy to have you on Enneagram Connections. So as we begin our segment today, we're going to talk a little bit about your journey to the Enneagram, you have fallen in love with about the Enneagram, and how you found your type. So if you could tell us a little bit about your experience with the Enneagram and then finding your type, that would be terrific.
Yeah, absolutely. My first experience with the Enneagram is the day I met my wife. Actually, she had a lot of prior knowledge with the Enneagram, and we discussed it in our first date. So after that, I actually went home and did a ton of research just because I wanted to connect a little more with her about it. And I had no experience before with any kind of personality tests or anything remotely do with that kind of thing. So I actually went that night and typed myself, and I came up with a Type 9. I was like, I'm sure that's what I am. I know the positives and negatives of everything it was saying, and I was like, that's totally me.
Mm-hmm. So what did you relate with about being Type 9? Like many of our listeners and viewers are new to the Enneagram. Some of them are advanced students of the Enneagram. But, one of the greatest things about being able to talk to a person of the type is that I can teach people about the type, but you live the type. You are the type. You exemplify the type. And hearing directly from your mouth about what it was that you noticed is so valuable. So if you could share with people, that would be great.
Yeah, I think the first thing that I noticed when reading about Type 9s and just being a Type 9 was the avoidance of conflict, the desire to create this space in my life, in every aspect of life, of like a comfortable Zen kind of state. It's really funny because even as a child, like I was one of the, what do they call them, conflict managers at my school. So I was always working to alleviate any kind of conflict in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Other things was that avoidance of my own self, like being so focused on others and not taking the time to focus on my own self or being aware of my own self, like just being totally blind to like my needs, uh, my own internal conflict, so to speak. Some other things that really kind of touched me and made me really think about me being a 9 was uh, also a desire to kind of be focused on other people as well, you know.
Hmm. So let's take the conflict piece, because there's something really kind of uh, interesting about conflict with nines, I think, and that is that it's not that you said I didn't like internal conflict, don't particularly love conflict, but I was a mediator of conflict at my school. So one of the things I think that's so meaty that gets to be unpacked in the discussion around nine-ness is that it's not the whole notion of conflict that's the problem, because they're a mediator. They even have a coined name, either peacemaker or mediator. It's when it's conflict that you're personally involved in.
Yeah. Yeah, for
So
sure.
talk about that, if you could. Unpack that for us a little bit more about how it works when it's your conflict with another person versus how important it is to help other people navigate conflict.
Yeah, it's really interesting when I'm working with other people. It almost is like a puzzle for me and how to uh I don't know, want to say fix, but like to help other people through this. But when it's my own conflict, it makes me so like uncomfortable, and it's like crawling under my skin or something, and like this fear and breathing fast kind of happens where I'm like, I need to escape it real quick, and try to avoid it or try to pacify that feeling. And it's really interesting because even to this day, even being more aware of it, like it still happens to me where I'm like, okay, what's the fastest avenue out of this conflict for myself, you know?
Mhm.
And that's not necessarily the best avenue in the best way to fix it, but like I try to like get rid of it out of my own self because that
Mhm.
gives me that feeling of uncomfortability. um,
So you don't
well,
have that sense of conflict internally when you're helping two people that are not you. So that feeling is different.
yeah, when I'm working with other people, it's almost exciting for me to be able to help other people kind of do these or face their conflict and help them through the conflict, which is kind of an interesting thing, I guess, when comparing it to my own self.
Hmm. Why do you think what motivates you internally to want to help people move through conflict?
Um, I don't. It's a good question. Like I've always wanted to help people. It's always something I've wanted to do, and it just there's some kind of sense in myself of seeing people at peace or wanting to see others in a sense of peace and tranquility that makes me want to help or intervene in other people's like when they're having trouble or having conflicts with each other. And I don't know, something inside me just like clicks, and I just like, okay, I know how to help these people get through it. And doing that, like, there's a huge reward for me, like internally, like to be able to see people get to a point where they are in conflict and work through it.
Mhm. So it's the peace. You mentioned the word peace, and I know the word harmony oftentimes is used with the type 9 too. It's watching, trying to find peace and harmony in your life, and is really important. I just think it's so interesting to think about the fact that the concept of conflict isn't the problem,
Hmm.
because clearly you would, if the concept of it were the root of the issue, being able to help people navigate, other people outside of you navigate through it would be a problem. That's not a problem. I watch nines jump into trying to help their besties, or not getting along with each other, communicate again and come back together and heal their fractured relationships. So the concept isn't the problem. It's just don't have something going on internally with me in the conflict. It's kind of like,
Right. Yeah. I guess it's like if you don't have any skin in the game, right? It's not as intense to you personally.
yeah.
Maybe that's what it is with me, but I don't know. Like, I guess for me, like I said, I constantly am evaluating kind of what I internally feel and think about myself.
Mm-hmm.
I spend a lot of time like wondering if I'm taking on other people's feelings and thoughts, because I also tend to do that a lot. I tend to know the best way to present myself to others to make them feel comfortable. And in turn, like I always am like questioning, like, do I really feel this? Is this really me, or is it just me presenting this facade for somebody else to help them be more comfortable?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, that's another one of the characteristics, personality characteristics of the 9 is kind of going along to get along. And I
Mm-hmm.
think we could unpack that a little bit more maybe before our break. So let's talk a little bit about another character. Did you notice kind of most of your life that you've kind of going along to get along with others, or taking on their thoughts, or
I definitely have noticed the aspect of like taking on, or like being what others need to help them feel comfortable. It's just something I picked up as a kid because I grew up in an environment that was very kind of unstable. So it kind of helped me fly under the radar a little bit to be able to pick and choose and to be somebody, or even the manner of speaking that I chose to do with certain people was different than other people, because that's what was more comfortable. It made it so I didn't stand out as much. But it wasn't really until I met my wife that I actually became aware that I was like even changing these little things,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
which was interesting because I would talk to my brother and I would talk to my wife in two different, very, very different manners.
mm-hmm.
And she would hear me on the phone and she's like, "Why are you talking like that?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" Um,
You didn't
and
even realize you were doing it.
No, I would just like slip into it. And like, I know that like even vocabulary is a tool, right? That we use to communicate, and it could be different, but like I didn't realize externally how others were even seeing that.
Yeah, the other people notice it. So all types have a journey to awareness. I want to, before we go to break today, I just want to unpack something, that there's no Enneagram type that is more, we all have a journey to self-awareness. That's one of the great gifts of the Enneagram. It shows us these patterns. When we understand our type, all of a sudden it's like, wow, you're talking in my language. You understand what I'm saying. These are the patterns of the way that I think. These are the patterns of the way that I emote. These are my behavior patterns. But no one type really comes to the Enneagram really, really self-aware. In fact, the tool of being able to watch your patterns is to grow that self-awareness. And when we're more aware of things, we can change them. And so I want to kind of introduce that caveat, and at the same time say that there is a stronger level of self-forgetting in the 9 than in any of the other types. And when we come back from break, we'll talk about that a little bit more. Thank you so much for joining me. I am Renee Siegel, your host today, and Wesley Scott is my guest. We're going to come back and unpack more of his journey, in his Enneagram journey, and his understanding of being a 9. If you want to know more about me, you can find out at yourpurepotential.com. That's the letter U, the letter R, purepotential.com. Thanks, and I'll see you right after break. Welcome back to Enneagram Conversations. I am so happy we have Wesley Scott, our type 9, here to help us unpack type 9s. And we were just talking a little bit over break about just some of these, characteristics that we call personality. And just as a means of kind of setting the stage and foundation, the Enneagram is a more than a personality typing system, but we are going to unpack personality characteristics here, talking about different traits that you might identify personality-wise in each particular type. And in a type 9, this going along to get along or merging with other people's agendas helps to keep the peace. Can you talk a little bit about kind of that merging, maybe flying under the radar a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, for me, I can only speak for me, of course, but like it really helped me get through a lot of uh, difficult situations while growing up, like having like really my brothers were very what's the best way problem children. So like for me it was like I didn't want to get lumped in with that, so what I would do is just like think about what my parents really wanted me to be like, or like what would be best for them, from me, from a standpoint to make things less difficult for them. And not only that, but it allowed me to, if I was doing these things that they were like looking for, or maybe they didn't like consciously looking for, but I just knew that it would draw the attention away from me, uh, or I wouldn't get like lumped in with my brothers if something bad was going on at the house. The chores didn't get done. Um, they were causing trouble. Um, Even in relationships too. That's the biggest one, I think, where like you learn your partner's habits or things that they really like or dislike. And it was easy for me to just kind of do these tasks or act in certain ways so that it wouldn't necessarily like cause friction. It wouldn't cause any friction in the relationship. Even if I felt really strongly that I didn't like something or I didn't want to do something, I generally would do it just to cause less of a, I guess, like a bounce back or like a debate or a conversation, strong conversation, yelling. I mean, any of those things like make me feel really uncomfortable when it comes to my own personal life, because it's hard for me to like, I don't want to say it's hard to stand up for myself, but to like push my presence on to other people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We talked some about this. I think before break, we talked a little bit about self-forgetting, this notion of self-forgetting. So it's there's an aspect of kind of setting your own kind of thoughts, desires, needs, etc. aside, and then there's this whole idea of maybe I don't even know what they are.
Mm.
Can you walk us through a little bit about when it is a time where you're kind of sleepy to your own ideas and thoughts, and then when maybe something occurs to you that you know is important, but you've just kind of decided maybe not to bring that up to keep the peace? How does that work?
Yeah, well, like for the first aspect, where like you were saying, I just kind of unaware, I guess. Like when it comes to my own personal self, I think it comes to like a priority list, and like myself is not high on that. So like, like I'm like, okay, I need to shave or whatever, like presenting my own. It doesn't hit that priority list. Like there's so many other things that are more important, and I generally don't feel like things like that like hit my radar as well. Like, I mean, making regular doctor visits, I mean, that's a big one, right? You think, oh, at least I think, like I'm doing all right, I feel great, I feel fine, I'm probably okay. I'll When that becomes an issue, then I'll address it. And for the other part of it, like when I do something I know that's going to disappoint other people, that's really hard, because like I know it's going to create a hard conversation. And I've had several in my relationship that were relatively big issues that I tried to avoid because I thought that I could fix the issue without the other person knowing, instead of just coming straight out and say, hey, look, I screwed up, I did this, or um I like, just like kind of owning your mistakes, which generally creates less of a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But I tried to avoid the initial uh, hard conversation by
Mm-hmm.
trying to just fix it on my own, or try to find a work around.
Mm-hmm.
so that it'll never come to light, I guess. And in that way, like creating more of a peaceful, like a connection between me and that other person.
So you just raised a whole bunch of things in that. It's like flying under the radar, keeping the peace, not asking for help, seeing yourself as not top on the priority list, kind of a self-forgetting, maybe not even remembering your own needs, all of those kinds of things. That's, you're kind of describing the situation that includes many of those elements. What about, there's a word that we use with nines about narcotizing. It's trying to numb the pain or stay in a state of kind of numbness. And some nines do it in different ways, watching too much TV, eating too much food, drinking too much alcohol, smoking too much pot, playing too many video games. I mean, where would can you relate to that narcotization kind of concept?
Yeah, actually, I definitely can, because especially when I'm in a state of stress, like I in the past have narcotized myself with food, video games, even reading books. I know it sounds crazy, but like escaping my own reality into a fantasy world by like spending 15 hours reading a fantasy novel instead of like addressing anything in the real world. Yeah, and I definitely can relate to that. Smoking, I used to smoke cigarettes, and that was a big thing. It's almost like a way to tune out and not engage in like any kind of like real thought that connects to that stress it's creating in me,
Yeah. And it's, again, this is not just significant. I mean, it's not just a part of your type, it's a part of lots of types, but it really becomes a very pronounced, because it's got a goal, there's a goal. If I can just escape into this fantasy novel, then if there's a lot of fighting going on in the house, I don't have to deal with that. Or it's not just for the sheer enjoyment of escaping into a fantasy novel. And that being said, there are certain ways that you can narcotize that are healthier and less threatening to your life than others. It's a lot less likely that you're going to have legal consequences of fantasizing by or narcotizing by reading a novel than it is by drinking too much. So there's that too. So we're going to go in, as we move into the next segments, we're going to talk about like the challenges of the type and the gifts of your type, what you see as assets, what you see as liabilities. But before we go to break, I want to talk about, what you would suggest was helpful in finding your type. Did you take a test? Did you read a book? Did you go to Enneagram trainings? How did you find your type?
Well, like I said, it was the first conversation I had was with my now wife, who knows a great deal about the Enneagram, and that was my first experience. And then what I did is I went home and went on the internet and started looking up every little detail I could find about it. I took probably even that night like 3 or 4 tests. And as the months and the years went by, I've read several books. I've been exposed to people that have a lot of knowledge on the Enneagram in my personal life. And, it's really helped me to be more aware, I think, is really what it is like you said, it's not just a personality typing test. It allows you to be more aware of your kind of base habits, And so, yeah, I've taken the time to, and I definitely can do more of it, but I've read several books, and like I definitely want to learn more. And by no means an expert for sure.
Well, you are an expert on you, and that's why we have you as a guest today. And I'm so happy that you're here with us. When we come back from break, we're going to talk more about the assets, the gifts of being a type 9 and the liabilities or challenges or opportunities for change as you notice your patterns as a type 9. Thank you so much, Wesley Scott, for joining us today. And after break, we will come back and pick up where we left off. I am Renee Siegel, your host. Thank you so much for joining us today on Enneagram Conversations. If you want to know more about me or my work, you can find out at yourpurepotential.com. That's the letter U, the letter R, purepotential.com. Thank you so much. Welcome back to Enneagram Conversations, and I am so appreciative of my guest, Wesley Scott, being with us today. Wesley identifies as an Enneagram Type 9, and he is here to share with you his personal experiences that help us to understand more about Type 9s. So there are many beautiful qualities about Type 9. It's called the Peacemaker Mediator. It sits at the top of the Enneagram chart. What do you most enjoy and appreciate, Wesley, about seeing yourself and identifying yourself as a Type 9?
I think it's an easy thing to answer for me, and the one thing that I really love above all else is the ability to see things and to experience things from other people's perspective, to stop and really put myself in other people's shoes, and not only just like see it from their point of view, but like feel it from their point of view. It's really kind of an interesting thing, and it's just something that I just thought everybody experiences. But like when I feel people who are sad or angry, like I physically feel that emotion in myself. And it really allows me to understand other people and what they're going through a lot better.
It's going to make you an amazing psychologist or therapist as you move towards your career goals. Yeah, the Type 9 has the ability to really hold many concepts. Every type has a worldview and a perception. And no matter what type we are, when we have that worldview, we're looking at the world through our own lens. It's very hard for us to imagine that other people see the world differently. And the Type 9's worldview is actually to be able to hold many concepts, many ideas at the same time, see the world through other people's eyes. We could use a whole lot more of that in our world right now, where we have so much division. Type 9 doesn't really see that division in the same way that other types might.
Yeah, it's true. Very true. It frustrates my wife a lot too, because like when people want to be angry or frustrated or have a really strong viewpoint, one of the last things they want is somebody trying to be like, well, maybe you should think about it from this point of view. Maybe think about or feel it from this point of view. So that could be, like I said, it's a gift and a curse, right? But like again, it allows me to be able to kind of find the right way to talk to somebody or to help them see it from a different point of view. So that again, it's really something I love.
And compassion, the ability to have compassion, I should say the capacity for Type 9s to just sit in a compassionate place and understand or just hold the space for somebody to be different.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have enough of that in our world right now either.
Yeah, definitely true. And again, like one of those things that kind of goes along with being able to see and feel other people is like understanding that like sometimes people do things or say things in anger or frustration, and not judging them by their worst actions, but by like just knowing that something better underneath even the worst person, or the person that's at their worst, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. What other gifts are there in being a 9 that you can share with us? There's so many.
Yeah. Um, uh, I think another one, and uh, a gift that I feel like is a very beneficial thing, is the, the ability to make quick decisions with other people. Like you know, I can see conflict, and the way my brain works, it allows me to be able to analyze that kind of other people's issues or problems or struggles very quickly, and come up with a way to help them understand or like see what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Well, the key phrase there is other people's. So,
Yes,
because when we get to the challenges, we're going to talk about the indecisiveness when it has to be your own decision. So, there are two
absolutely.
Enneagram types that really have this kind of special quality, gift capacity to see the world through the lens of how other people see the world, or put themselves in the position of other people, or to just consider other people in the same way, or maybe even a bigger way than they consider themselves. And that's the type 9 and the type 2. And they differ in some very interesting ways, but that capacity to jump into that quick decision making that you're talking about, or helping people come up with solution, is really easy for you to do with others, and
Yes.
maybe not quite so easy for you to do when it just concerns your own personal needs or yourself.
Yeah, 100%. Like when it comes to myself, again, like I said before, it's like, okay, is this really what I want? Is this like, it's constantly like questioning my own self about like what my needs or what my wants, what my desires, what I think even sometimes.
Mhm.
And it can be quite frustrating, you know, like because it does come so easy when I'm directing it at other people, but when I directed it at myself, I mean, like it wasn't until I was in my mid 30s that I even thought about psychology as a career path, you know, like it was more like constantly questioning, like, what is it that I want to do? What is it that I want to be? What is it, you know, it's constantly asking myself these questions.
Mhm. Mhm.
uh yeah.
I was going to say, could you take us in that journey and how you kind of came to figure that out?
Well, I spent a lot of my time, like I started working like in high school. Like I started doing like physical laborish jobs, manual labor jobs, and working with my hands, which I really enjoyed, you know. um and just trying to figure out what kind of skills or like special things that I have about myself, because I think we all go through uh early, you know, 20s 30s really trying to figure out what it is that we're really passionate and really good at. And I struggled with that, and so I, you know, focused doing kind of like labor jobs that were physically intensive versus mentally intensive. um because it was just like I just couldn't pinpoint it. And you know, actually, like again, thanks to my wife and the people that she exposed me to, it really shed light on the fact that I was already doing a lot of this kind of work with friends, and like helping people through problems, you know, helping people stopping and really thinking about themselves, and like the way that they were acting, and just like seeing, helping people see like behavioral things that they're doing. Like I did a lot of I was like in my friend group, I was the guy that everybody went to talk to help with their problems, and even help within inner group problems that we had. And I never really thought of that as something that was a skill. It was just something that was just there, and I never thought of it as like, I hate to say, like a bankable skill, something that I can make a profession doing,
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think it's one of those things that we're like, nines are like kind of blind to the self.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I was just blind to the fact that was even a skill.
Yeah. The ability to actively listen is, again, we don't talk, or to actually actively be present to another human being, just be in a grounded, present, interested place for people without trying to fix them or change them. I mean, we think about therapeutic skills. It's not about giving advice. It's not about telling people what to do. I mean, there are many people in your life that will do that for you, right? Tell you what to do,
Hmm.
or think they know what's best for you. But that's a really beautiful skill that is definitely undervalued. And I'm hoping that you'll really notice and capitalize on that, and allow yourself to see that as a gift as you move into your career, because it is a gift to be able to do that with another. Yeah. So what about the gift of being present, and actively listening? Do you have any other like brief examples that you might want to share before we go to break?
Yeah. Well, like, it's so funny, like talking about the Enneagram, I think about some of the stuff I read about love languages, right? And my love language is like time, personal time, right? So like for me, like to be able to disconnect from everything around and be present with a person is like the greatest gift that I think you can give somebody. And so I think that's probably something I really love about it,
Yeah.
the ability to do that. And not everybody has the same love language, but like for me, like I love when people can be present, be off their phone, whatever it may be, but like generally connect with each other.
Yeah, quality time is one of the love languages, and quality time really speaks to what you were just sharing with us too.
Mhm.
Thank you so much. We're just about ready to go to break again. Thank you, Wesley, for joining us, and we'll be back with more about the challenges of type and where you're headed on your own personal exploration, and what some of the specific challenges of the type 9 are. Welcome back to Enneagram Conversations, and we're in store for another treat. We are joined now in the last segment of our show by Judy Shub, who has been studying the Enneagram for the last 20 years and also identifies as a type 9. And so I'm very interested in our last segment to hear Judy and Wesley talk about what some of the opportunities for growth are in type 9, where they feel like their Enneagram journey is taking them now as they move forward. So Judy, welcome. I'm so happy you're able to join us. And I'm just going to let the two of you talk about it together, because we'll get a stronger flavor of your types.
Very good. Well, Wes, I'm sorry I wasn't here to hear what you had to say, because I'm starting in cold now. But I'll just go ahead and initiate that, if I may, if that's okay. And I know one of the things that has challenged me a lot was finding that voice inside of myself that stops me from doing things by telling me I'm just not quite good enough. I'm not smart enough. I'm not fast enough. I'm not, but they'd never say not verbal enough, but so I find myself stopping myself on negative fantasies. It's not something that's true. In fact, rarely would it prove to be true if I really jumped in and just took it on. But it is that self-doubt that crops up. I don't know, are you possessed with that every now and then?
Yeah, I definitely fall prey to that as well. like I have had plenty of opportunity or experiences in my life where I'm around people who are like more educated than me, and I'm like, I don't fit in here. I just can't
Yeah.
do this. Education's not my thing, or uh, just feeling that. And I ask myself whether it's me feeling uncomfortable accepting that I'm good enough or I'm better than I want, because like I'm trying to minimize myself or hide myself or like not be so bright, I guess.
Yes, yes. I sometimes prefer to stand behind somebody, let them lead. And yet I have a really hard time stopping myself from taking charge when I'm in a group where somebody doesn't take that role quickly. I can't help myself. I take it, which I think is that strong 8 wing that I have.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. I'm the same. Like I'd much rather be the advisor versus the ruler, right? Like being that person that is out of the shadow. I mean, even in having birthday parties, being the center of attention is like something that makes me so incredibly uncomfortable. And it's really great because I was born on Christmas, so there's not a lot of times where like I have great big gatherings that it aren't my family, and usually it's focused on other things than just me. So it kind of worked out really well for me.
Oh, good.
But yeah, I get that uncomfortable feeling, like even talking about myself is really like in this situation, it's like really difficult to like. We're talking like, what do you love about yourself? I'm like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. When somebody asks me to list my strengths, I'm hard pressed. I really have to put my head to work to think about that one. Anyway, it is, and I can remember as a child, my mother saying to me when I was young, and certainly in high school, you have an inferiority complex, and there's no reason for you to have one. I don't understand why you have this. Well, that just sort of rolled right over my head. And I said, oh, well, okay. And I really never paid attention to that till I got older in life. And I really saw that was true. And it's based on fantasy. It's based on my imagination, not because I've gone out and failed again and again. I haven't. Not to say I never have. I certainly have, but that's not my norm.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting that you talk about like that failure aspect. For me, I think like I've failed and been okay with it, but I think more often than not, I will put myself in a position not to even try versus failing. It's like, you get that idea of like, okay, well, if I don't do this, I can't disappoint somebody, or I won't disappoint the people around me. And I think that's for me where it comes from, is not necessarily disappointing myself or the failure or fear of failure, but like the fear of like disappointing people around me.
Right. Right.
What would you guys say to nines who are just beginning their Enneagram journey? What have you learned in your own awareness as you've grown to know your type, and what would you suggest for people?
I guess the first thing I would suggest is find patience for yourself. Like, be aware that like negative aspects aren't necessarily negative, that they're just opportunities to learn. Because we all have things that we don't like, we're uncomfortable with, things that we've done in the past that like we feel shame about. But it's really, I think, for like I said, for me as a 9, like narcotizing and like falling asleep to myself, I think it's really important to just let people that are 9s know that like it's okay to feel uncomfortable and embrace these things about yourself, at the same time wanting to or studying up to learn how to be more aware so you can combat that part of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very good advice. I would certainly share that. I would also suggest to nines there are a lot of strengths that nines have. And if you can manage to manipulate your career, your work, where you're spending most of your time into those areas that come naturally. One of those is people orientation. Nines are very at ease with people, and people are generally at ease with type nines. And something in that field, I think, is a natural. And I think the ones that are the rough spots to get past are very good learning opportunities to give yourself, the one piece, give yourself time for yourself regularly. I got myself into an early morning discipline of reading and a little meditation and time to just think about my day a little bit from my own point of view, not a to-do list. And I think that's important for nines because we don't do that naturally. Mm-hmm. It takes discipline.
Yeah. We talked earlier in the segment about several of those things, including the self-forgetting. So that is so huge, this whole idea of kind of coming home to yourself and getting into a space where you bring yourself into the day. A 2 has that same issue, but that for a very different reason. But bringing yourself into the day really requires you to be aware of who you are and where you are in time and space. Sometimes that's not easy to do.
Right. Isn't that the truth?
Yeah. Any last minute? We have just 1 minute left. How about a simple one-line word of advice? We'll take one from each of you and I'll end with one.
You want to start, Judy?
I would say just attend as many training events as you possibly can, be them online or in person. Books to read, just keep reading, and you pick up little words of wisdom from any of them as you go.
Yeah, and I would kind of say the same thing, like expose yourself to people that know. That way you can better yourself with experience.
Yeah. And I'm going to kind of piggyback on both of those, because I think finding an Enneagram community, a community of people who are really working on the Enneagram, is more than a parlor game or something that you discuss at a cocktail dinner,
right,
or whatever. The Enneagram is so rich. Find a community of people who are using the Enneagram in really big ways. You will be blown away by the opportunities afforded you in terms of self-awareness and how you can bring yourself into relationships in a far more fulfilling and full-bodied way. I thank you, Judy Shube and Wesley Scott, for joining me, Renee Siegel, on Enneagram Conversations. And if you want to find out more about this podcast or my work, you can at yourpurepotential.com. That's the letter U, the letter R, purepotential.com. Thank you again, viewers and listeners.
Thanks for listening to Enneagram Conversations. Renee is on a mission to guide people towards cultivating inner observation, which assists with self-awareness and expansion. Identify your type, notice your patterns, and learn how to unlock the higher aspects of your Enneagram type. There is limitless potential inside you already, just waiting to be unveiled. Join Renee next time on this journey of self-discovery and create more purpose and power in your life. For more information about Renee and her work, visit yourpurepotential.com. That's the letter U, the letter R, purepotential.com. Until next time, remember, you are pure potential.